Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a slow and melodic lead, and I'm going to show you how to play this kind of thing when you improvise. We're going to break down all the notes, and I'll explain where the notes come from. A lot of this has to do with a major chord and its relative minor chord. I'll explain what that is, and we'll just break it all down note for note. So no matter where you're at in your learning spectrum, even if you're fairly new to playing, you should be able to follow along with a lot of this because it's played at such a slow tempo. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half and get the tablature and the MP3 jam track so that you can practice filling in the lead part, you can get all of that by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP269. Alright, so let me take just a few minutes here at the beginning and talk about tone settings, and I'll also explain what a relative minor is and its major chord and what that relationship is. Now, if you want to skip past all of this and go straight to the notes that are played in the lesson, you can do that by fast forwarding to the number on the screen right now. But let's start off talking about tone. Now, when you're playing a really slow, clean, melodic lead, like you do in jazz or country or a slow blues, like I'm playing in this. The first mistake I made when I was learning to play is I assumed to get that real clean sound, you had to play clean channel out of your guitar or amplifier, and that's really not the case. The problem when you're playing clean channel is that the sound comes out of the amp and then it falls flat. There's no sustain to it, and so when you want a note to ring out for a while like that, you're going to have to add some overdrive. Now that's a little bit counter to what you might think. You don't think of overdrive when you hear a real sweet sounding lead like that, real simple and clean. But in actual fact, if you listen to it, if I play a chord, you'll hear that overdrive behind it all. And the reason for that is it gives you the sustain. It gives it a little more depth to the note. It just doesn't sound so thin and fall flat. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to have a real clean lead, that it's okay to add some overdrive to that. In fact, you really should add some. The other thing to keep in mind is the volume on your guitar. I always like to back it off either 70%, 50%, so you don't want the volume all the way up. So just keep that in mind. You want to probably back off the volume a little bit. And that gives you some reserve. If you're playing live, you can always punch it up if you need to. That's a good feeling to have. You don't want to be maxed out and have nowhere to go if you need that extra space. So that's the tone. Add a little overdrive. Now, as far as how much, it really depends on what sound. There's no formula for this. By the way, I'm not using any pedals. You can go straight into your amp. Just add a little bit and then see if it sounds all right, and then add a little more if you need to. And you might play around with the volume and then the tone on your guitar, but it's just a lot of playing around. You'll get that spot though, no matter what amp you have. I don't care if it's an old PV Rage amp or if it's an old Crate or whatever you've got. You can get a really nice sound if you play around with it. All right. So now, as far as that relative minor chord, a relative minor chord is every major chord has a relative minor chord, and every minor chord has a relative major chord. So what is it? Well, they're just two chords that play nicely together. They sound really good together. So if I'm playing a C chord, like we're playing in this song, its relative minor chord is an A minor. And that A minor chord has a relative major, which is the C. And you hear this relationship between these two chords in a lot of songs. It's used over and over again. The reason for that is it just sounds good to our ear. Now, there's two ways you can find a relative minor chord, find whatever the relative minor chord is from a major chord easily on the guitar. And that is, well, the easiest way, I think, is to count down 3 frets from where you're at. 3 frets this way towards the head of the guitar. So if I'm playing a C major chord, I find that root note, which is a C, and I go 1, 2, 3. So the note that I play after I go down 3 frets, I make that a minor chord. So it'd be an A minor. and that's your relative minor. So you could do, like if you're playing a D, you just go down 1, 2, 3, and you got a B minor. And that's how you find the relative minor. So keep that in mind if you're writing music and you're looking for, some ideas. Go to the relative minor chord. It's used all the time in music, and there's a reason for that, obviously. So the same is true if you're trying to find the relative major of a minor chord. So if I was playing an A minor chord and I wanted to find the relative major chord, I'd just go this direction 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. So there's your C chord. You play a major chord. So that's the easiest way to find them. The other way is just go to the major scale and count to the 6th interval. So if we were playing in C, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an A note. That's your relative minor. So that's the other way to find a relative minor. Now the cool thing to me about the major and its relative minor is when it comes to playing lead. You can literally stay in the same spot, playing the same scale, and it's going to work over both of those chords. So for example, if we're playing a C and we go to the major pentatonic scale, this is how I started the lead for this song, by the way. I started in C major pentatonic scale, which is here. Right? That's your pattern 1, C major pentatonic scale. Now if I go to the A minor chord, I can play the same scale. And I get a different feel. So that allows me to just stay in the same place without having to think about it too much. So, and that's true of all of the patterns. So there's 5 different patterns, and as a premium member you have access to that, the blues lead course where I go over the 5 different patterns. You can play any of those 5 patterns, and it's going to work over both of those chords. Now I know that's confusing to a lot of people. For some reason that whole, wait, that same scale is, how can that same scale be a C major pentatonic scale but also be an A minor? Well, it is. It just is. It's the same notes in both scales. So think about that for a minute. If you're struggling with that, you can always leave a comment and I'll try to answer, or somebody else might answer. But just keep that in mind, that whole counting down 3 frets, major, minor, pentatonic scale, the relationship of those two and how they work. You can also check out EP269. I do a lesson on mixing the major and minor pentatonic scale. There might be some pieces of that that will connect to this. So let's talk about the song. So this song is in 6/4 time. And so what that means is when you're counting it, you count it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it starts off with a little bit of a drum fill. So that would be your first 6. And then it goes right into that C chord. And the way that I'm playing the notes, when I'm playing the rhythm, now this is not part of the lesson, I'm just explaining how the rhythm works, but I'm playing a note right on the beat. So I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how I was playing the rhythm track. And I did that over the A minor chord as well. So we're going to start with a C chord and play 4 of those, and we go to the A minor chord. But the first note that I played is a bend, a real slow bend that happens here on the 7th fret, 3rd string. Now you need to know when to come in. So you come in after the music starts, you count 6. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's where you start the bend. So just keep that in mind when you're playing along with the jam track. Now this note, we're in the major pentatonic scale for C. So playing over C chord, we're in major pentatonic scale pattern 1. So I start there on the 7th fret, 3rd string, and I do a slow bend. And what I do is when I get to the top of that bend, so I'm trying to hit this note, so I'm doing a full bend. That means I'm going 2 frets higher than where I started. And I take my pinky and I come up here to the 8th fret, 2nd string, and hit that note while I'm keeping the note bent. So you go like this. So after I hit that 8th fret 2nd string, then I go back and hit the 7th fret 3rd string in its bend. So you keep the bend. And then I went kind of a country thing there. Now what I'm doing is I'm plucking. I'm using these 2 fingers, my middle finger, my ring finger, and when I pluck that, I do 2 bends there as I'm plucking it. Now if you don't want to pluck it, you can pick it. You can just brush your pick across strings 2 and 3. And then I come down to the 5th fret 3rd string. All right, so let me start a slow version of the jam track so we can get the timing down for how to start this thing. Here we go. Alright, so now the song goes to the A minor. It's about to go to the A minor. And what I did there was... Now, look at this, what I'm playing here. I'm playing strings 4 and 3, the middle 2 strings, and I'm barring the first 4 strings here on the 5th fret, but I'm only playing strings 4 and 3, and I'm plucking, again, middle finger and index finger. And so I'm sliding from the 5th fret to the 7th fret and back to the 5th fret. And then back to the 7th fret. Now that's a nice little takeaway lick. Just remember, if you're playing something in the major pentatonic scale, you've got that little lick that you can do where you go back and forth between those 2 frets. I just think that sounds really cool, and it's easy to play and easy to remember. And then I came up here and played, that's strings 2 and 3 on the 5th fret. You just bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret and play strings 2 and 3. And that's where the song goes to the A minor. And just remember, we're playing in the A minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. That's why those 2 notes work. Same scale though as the C major pentatonic scale, pattern 1. Pretty cool, that relationship between those 2. So after I played those 2 strings, then I came up here to the 8th fret 2nd string, and I did 2 full bends, release, and then the 5th fret 2nd string. Now again, this is minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. And then I played, great little takeaway lick. So let me show you how to play that. Again, this is minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. We're going to come down to the 7th fret 3rd string, index finger 5th fret 2nd string, and then I do. So that's a bend, release, pull off. And then a hammer on to the 7th fret 4th string. So all together we have, and I use that lick all the time, that little bend, release, pull off, hammer on. I don't know what you call all that, but it's a great little lick. Alright, so let me back up and play along with that slow version of the jam track, and I'll play us up to that point. So listen for that A minor chord change. There it is. Okay, now the next thing that I played was almost just sort of reiterating that point that I made. If that's the point, I just kind of went back to that same point. And all I did to play that was I barred the first 4 strings here on the 5th fret, played the 4th string, do a hammer on to the 7th fret 4th string, and then do an up stroke on the 5th fret 3rd string, and then back to the 7th fret 4th string. Now this is where the song goes from that A minor to the G and back to the C. So there's a quick G thrown in there. And that's a Pink Floyd move. It's like a Dave Gilmour thing. I associate that with him anyway. You go to the 5 chord real quick, and then you get back to the 1 chord. It sounds really cool. It's a nice little pull. And what I played over that, I went like that. So I played strings 4 and 3 on the 5th fret, and then I slid down with my ring finger to the 5th fret 5th string, and then the song goes back to the C, and I went. So there's your C chord, and all I'm doing is I slid up to the 7th fret 5th string, and then I put my bar down here, my finger as a bar, and barred the first 4 strings on the 5th fret and played 4 and 3. So we have, it's a nice sounding C. It's just a C chord. So you have a C chord here and a C chord here. It's the same chord, but you've just got a different note in the bass. So playing along with the jam track up to that point. Hear that? That nice little stop there? That's where we go the G. You can see all the notes that I'm playing though, they're just in that major pentatonic scale for C, minor pentatonic scale for A minor. They're all in the same place. So it's very simple lead. Okay, from here, then I went, just to kind of echo what's going on with the rhythm, I did a quick change to the 4 chord, which is an F. Keith Richards move. I use this all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that bar there on the 5th fret, bar in the first 4 strings. And I'm going to pick on the 4th string and pluck with my ring finger on the 2nd string. And I do a quick hammer on like this. So to do the hammer on, I keep the bar, my middle finger goes down on the 6th fret 2nd string, and my ring finger goes down on the 7th fret 4th string. And then I take the bar, or take those 2 fingers off and play strings 2 and 4 behind the bar. So you have that. So after you have, then you have that. And then I came up here, just going up to pattern 2. So we're still, you know, there's still the C chord going on. Now I'm in pattern 2. So middle finger comes up to the 9th fret 3rd string, index finger on the 8th fret 2nd string. And then I went little country lick there. This is kind of a nice blend to me of country and blues. It's somewhere between the two. So to play that, I'm thinking about not just pattern 2, but I'm thinking about the C chord, because we're playing over C, right? So when I'm up in this pattern 2 and I'm playing these 2 notes, yes, they're in pattern 2 of the major pentatonic scale for C, but they're also the same 2 chords that are in this bar chord. So hopefully a light bulb went off for some of you, and you can see that pattern 2 is right there in the top part of the C major bar chord. And so what I did is I thought about the chord and went, just trace the notes out of it. So I went ahead and made just the top part of the chord. So I'm barring the first 2 strings here on the 8th fret. Middle finger goes down the 9th fret 3rd string. And then I come down and play, that would be like a sus4 chord, I guess. But I do a hammer on from the 9th fret to the 10th fret on the 3rd string. And then play the 9th fret 3rd string. So you have, that's a nice little embellishment that I use all the time. That's a takeaway too. If you learn nothing else in this lesson, remember that. So if you're playing something slow and you're playing over an A chord, doesn't that sound nice? It's so easy to find because you're just thinking of the A major bar chord. And it's those little embellishments that make your playing. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about being flashy. It's not about being fast. You know, it's about being having good taste and just knowing, you know, kind of when and where to use that stuff. So I'm just trying to impart the things that I've picked up and I think is good, and hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. So we have, okay, so that's a lot of information. Let me back up. I'll play along with a jam track and get us up to that point. Okay, so the next thing goes like this. Really cool, I love this. You're doing a bend and a half. So you're starting here on the 10th fret 2nd string and you're bending up to what would be the 13th fret. That's the note you're trying to hit. That's a big bend. Now if you're on an acoustic guitar, I don't think you're going to be able to do that without really hurting yourself, unless you got super light gauge strings. But so I'm doing a full bend. Now this is all about bend control. We're going to do a bend and a half, then we're going to do just a full bend, and then we're going to release it down to the 10th fret 2nd string without the bend. And I try and do that all in one motion like this. So you can see I just picked it once. And that's just string control, you know, and you just get that by doing it over and over again. If you need to, you can pick it each time. So that's the note, and we're still in that major pentatonic scale, pattern 2. Now the next thing I played was, that's just a hammer-on between the 8th fret 2nd string and the 10th fret, back to the 8th fret 2nd string, and then the 9th fret 3rd string. So when you put all that together, you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. That's the next lick we're going to learn. This is a Mark Knopfler style lick. And to play that, I'm going to bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret. This would be a huge takeaway lick for a lot of you too. I mean, just this lick is worth the price of admission, I think. But you're going to bar the first 3 strings here on the 5th fret. Ring finger is on the 7th fret 3rd string. And do a slide up to that blue note, which would be the 8th fret 3rd string. And then play the 5th fret 2nd string. So all you're doing is chromatically going. But it's just easier to do this, to slide up to that. And then do a slide back, 8th fret to the 7th fret. And then you're going to play the 5th fret 3rd string. So we have, and then that last note is the 7th fret 4th string. Just practice that over and over again until you can get that. And remember that lick in reference to minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. So if I said play that lick in G now, you could do it. Right? So that's why it's important to kind of connect it back to something so you can use it. Alright, so after this lick, there's one other lick that goes, it's kind of reiterating that point again. And to play that, this is another great takeaway for a minor chord. I use that a lot too. But we're going to bar the first 3 strings here on the 5th fret, play strings 2 and 3, do a hammer on to the 7th fret 3rd string, just 2 and 3, play 2 and 3 behind the bar there, and then let your ring finger come down to the 7th fret 4th string. So you have an easy thing to play. See how good that sounds over an A minor? Do it over G minor. So you can start to really make it, sink in. Try it over different minor chords. But that's how you do it. And that is really all there is to this first half of the solo. Now it goes into some other parts, which I'm going to save for the second video. But if you're not a premium member, you got to check it out. It's like super affordable, and you get the jam tracks, and you get tablature, and extra video content, and lots of love. And I do it every week. Alright, so I'm going to back up and play through this first half one more time. I'll play through it with a slow jam track, and then I'll see you in part 2. So here we go.